Hello, everyone. Welcome to our exciting session that we have for you today from the EDS team. But before we dive into the conversation, I would quickly like to understand if my voice is audible. So, if I'm audible, please do type a yes in the chat box. And also talking about this chat box, I would request you to post all your questions that you have for today's session out there. And I would request you to wait patiently so that our host for today's webinar would address them shortly by end of the session. So as I see a lot of them are still joining the session, I would like to give them some time. And till that time, I would like to grab a little bit of your time where I would quickly like to run through about Galvanize a little bit, wherein I would like to talk who we are and what exactly we do. A lot of you are quite familiar with Galvanize Global Education, wherein Galvanize has been helping students right from their basic test preparations for IELTS, GRE, TOEFL, SAT, and then followed by a team of experts guiding students for their admission counseling services, wherein we help you with documentation and many more such activities. And not only that, Galvanize is at your back for your last minute assistance, wherein we help you connect with the right loan providers. We take immense pleasure and we feel proud to say that Galvanize Global Education is founded and managed by alumni from top universities like Stanford, IIT Madras, IIM Ahmedabad. And not only that, 65 plus countries have chosen Galvanize in their journey of higher education, may it be test prep or admission counseling. There are students across globe who have been prepping with Galvanize. And not only that, we have placed our students across 1,000 plus universities across 18 plus countries. And I'm pretty sure on screen you would be seeing a dream destination, and Galvanize would be glad to help you get into your dream destination out there. Well, I won't take much of your time here, but I would share the thread on the chat box, and I would request you to please take a look at the Quora reviews where students have shared their experience of being with Galvanize either for test prep or their admission counseling services. Well, your go-to-go person, your host for today's webinar, we have with us Rutu Parna from the ETS team. And she's also, she's specialized in GRE and TOEFL instruction with 7+ years of experience. She's an amazing person as she herself likes learning. She has many tips, tricks to make you fall in love and learn and practice for your GRE or TOEFL exams out there with easy fun out there. And without any further delay, I would request Rutuparna to start with the session.
Thank you so much, Ramya, for a very warm welcome. And I welcome all of you to the masterclass today for reading comprehension, wherein we are going to learn a lot about the reading comprehension, what are the challenges that we face as test takers, and how do we overcome those challenges and answer questions based on passages. All right. I can see nobody actually. It'll be great if you could just switch on your cameras. We'll have a nice atmosphere, and we'll all be pumped to just take in all the insights that we can from the session.
And it's a webinar mode, so they won't be able to switch on, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. All right. Let me share my screen first. Is my screen visible?
Yes.
All right. Great.
Yes.
So first, I'm going to talk about the test structure and the overview of the test and some important tools in the first few seconds. I'll tell you a little bit about the scoring as well. And then, of course, we are going to talk about the top tips and strategies that we need to equip ourselves with in order to be able to do great in the reading comprehension section. Okay, as all of you know, the GRE has been modified. Earlier, we were a very longer test, and now we are a test about 2 hours, and the test will have three major sections. All right. The first section is called the analytical writing assessment section. The name itself suggests that there will be a writing assessment. And this section will require the test taker to write an essay, which is going to be an opinionated essay. Here, the test scores will range from 0 to 6 in half-point increments, in the sense that 0 being the lowest score and 6 being the highest score. You will be scored like 2, 2.5, 3, 3.5, like that, because there is no 1 point, but half point increments. Now, understand that this score, the scores on the AWA section is not included in your composite score of 340. Which are the sections that comprises of the composite score of 340 is the two sections that are the actual sections in the verbal reasoning section and the quantitative reasoning section, right? So in the verbal reasoning, your scores will range from 130 to 170 in 1 point increments. That means all the question will contribute for 1 mark. And in the quantitative reasoning section, also the scores will range from 130 to 170, wherein all the questions contribute to 1 mark or 1 point. The scores are good for 5 years. Now, this is the modified structure of the GRE general test. I would like all of you to take a minute and just look at it. The first section, like we all have already talked about, is the analytical writing assessment section, wherein the test takers will be required to write one analyze and issue task, which is going to be an opinion-based task. And the time that you get for this section will be 30 minutes. And the score will range from 0 to 6. The next section that we have is verbal reasoning, which will have 2 sections. In the first section, you will get 12 questions. And to do those 12 questions, you will get 18 minutes. In the second section, you will have 15 questions. And to finish the second section, you will get 23 minutes. Similarly, in the quantitative reasoning section, you will also have two sections wherein the number of questions are going to remain the same as verbal. That means in the first section, you will get 12 questions. And in the second section, you will get 15 questions. However, what differs here is the time that is allotted for the quantitative reasoning section. Now, for the first section of quants, you will get 21 minutes. And for the second section, you will get 26 minutes. Knowing the duration of the section is very, very important so that we understand where to, spend more time and which questions to spend less time on. Because if that understanding is there, then of course we will never be able to, or we will never struggle with the, pacing while we are writing our test. The next thing that I want to talk about are some important tools that we have on the test dashboard. The first tool that you all can see here is an exit section tool. The name itself suggests that when you click on this button, the section will be over for you and you will not be able to go back to the section. Now, why is it important for us to know? So, GRE has a great advantage wherein as long as the test taker or any test taker is within a section, they will be able to go back to any question that they like. Okay, so in other examinations, you would have seen that that's not the case. Once you click on an answer and submit an answer, you will not be able to go back to the question to change your response or for anything that you want. But in GRE, you can definitely go back to any question that you like as long as you are within that particular section. The next tool that we have is a calculator. Of course, the verbal reasoning section will not have a calculator present, but the quantitative reasoning section will have a calculator with basic operations available. For some questions, you will be needing the calculator. You can do your calculations and put in whatever, answer you have got in as your answer. The next tool we have here is a mark button. I would just take a minute and ask everyone here if they know what this mark button means and why do we need to know about the mark button as test takers, and why is it important for us to know and how to take advantage of this mark button. Please put in your inputs in the chat box. Marking the question to revisit it or cross-check it later again. Very good. Anybody else? Mark as review. Okay. Great. Now, this mark button is for you to use when you feel like you are using too much time, right? You're spending too much time on a particular question. And that should not be the case, right? Because all the questions require the same attention from all of us. Why do we need to make use of the mark button is so that we don't, miss out on the other questions. So if I feel like I am spending too much time on question number 5, I should just mark that question, move on. And when I go to the next tool, that is the review tool, when I click on that, it will show me exactly which question I've marked. So it will be acting like a reminder for me to go back to the question and change my input and submit my response. So make sure as test takers, you know about these tools and make use of these tools whenever required. So this is how the review page looks like. I hope you are well aware of the mark and review buttons as of now, and you can make use of it whenever required. Okay, now let's talk about the section level adaptiveness of the GRE. Now, section level adaptive means how you do in one section defines what kind of section you will get as your next section. So it's very imperative for you to understand doing well in the first section is very, very important, because that way we will make sure that the next section or the second section that we get will be harder in nature, and that will make sure that our score is going up. So I can show you the illustration here. If you have performed well in the first section, then the next section that you will get will be will have more challenging content, which will also make sure that your score is going up towards 170. If you do moderately well in the first section, then the next section that you will get will have moderately challenging content. That means your score will also be in the moderate level. And if you have not done very well in the first section, then the next section or the second section will be very easy in nature, which will make sure that your score is not that high. Remember that there is no negative marking, so it's a good idea to attempt all the questions, even though we are under a lot of pressure and time crunch. Use the process of elimination and try to answer every question. You never know. Some questions might just turn out to have the correct answers. Okay. I'm gonna just talk majorly about reading comprehension now. To accommodate different interests and backgrounds, there is a balance of questions in reading comprehension coming from natural sciences, social sciences, humanities, literature, geography. It can be anything, but don't worry. No specific, subject knowledge is required to do well in the reading comprehension section of the GRE. Now, before we move ahead in the session, I want you to put it in the chat box as to what do you feel is most challenging while you are doing reading comprehension questions or while you are trying to analyze a reading comprehension passage. Hard vocab, okay, all right. What else? Takes a lot of time related to some other fields, okay? Finding out the sentences from the para, which means similar to the given statement. Intricate in texts, complexity with redundant sentences. Okay, that makes sense. Okay, so first, of course, we'll try to understand, the structure of passages and what kind of different questions we get in passages. And then, of course, I'll tell you all about reading comprehension passages and how to tackle long passages. So this is what a reading comprehension passage looks like on your test dashboard. On the left-hand side, you will have the passage, and on the right-hand side of the dashboard, you will have a question under which you will have options, right? Passages are going to be around, typically going to be around 350 words long. Topics of passages can range from geology, biology, literary critic, sociology, business, It can come from humanities, it can come from natural sciences, it can come from any background. But you don't need to worry because, you know, everything that we need in order to be able to answer the questions based on the passage will be there in the passage itself, okay? So as test takers of GRE, what I want you to understand is that the passage is your only context. Whatever you answer has to be based on what's given in the passage itself. We are not going to rely on any outside information or even our assumption to answer the questions. If we do that, then there is a chance that we may come up with the wrong answers. So take proof from the passage itself, as that is your only proof. So reading comprehension sets consist of a passage and one or more associated questions. It requires the test taker to read and to understand what is read, to understand and recognize the purpose and main idea of the passage, to understand the specific points made in the passage, to understand certain inferences made in the passage, and evaluating the purpose and structure of the passage, right? So each reading passage contains all of the information needed to answer the questions to follow it. So I keep stressing on the fact that the reading comprehension passage is your only proof, and you don't need to think of anything on your own. If you have any problem with any question, just go back to the passage and locate the proof for it, right? So you can get questions, multiple choice questions, which will have one answer choice. You can get multiple choice questions which will have 3 answer choices, and out of that you might have to choose 1 or more answer choices as correct answer choices. And then of course you will have a select a sentence in the passage question. So you have to choose the sentence in the passage that fits a given description. The task of the question will be there in the question stem. Understand the question so that you understand what the task of the question is and what your approach to that question should be. So this is a traditional multiple choice question with 5 answer choices, out of which the test taker must select 1. This is a multiple choice question which may have 1 or more answer choices. Now, this question provides 3 answer choices and asks the test takers to select all that are correct. It may have 1 correct answer, it may have all the 3 options as the correct answers. Now, where are we going to take from? From the passage itself. So when you go through the first option, try to locate the proof for it in the passage. If it's there, it's very much your answer. If it's not, then don't try to overthink and overanalyze and try to club it up with the answer choice to, you know, create any sort of confusion. So to gain credit for these questions, the test taker must select all the correct answers and only those, okay? So if this particular question has A and C as the correct answers, and I as a test taker have chosen A and B as the correct answers, that means I have given partial answers. I will not be marked for that questions. Please be mindful about this thing. Only when you get both the answers correct, you will be marked for that particular question. Now, this is what a select the sentence answer question looks like on the test dashboard. It asks the test takers to select the sentence in the passage that meets a certain description. To select a sentence, the test taker should click on any word in the sentence or select the sentence with the keyboard. Whichever sentence you click on will be selected. Depending on that, you will be scored for that particular question. In longer passages, the question will usually apply to 1 or 2 specified paragraphs, but the test taker will not be able to select a sentence elsewhere in the passage. Just please understand these, tiny little structures of the different questions so that there is no confusion at all. When you do select a sentence, this is how it's going to look like. Okay. Now let's talk about the strategies that we need to be able to do the questions properly in reading comprehension passages. So the test taker should remember that all the necessary information to answer each question is in the passage itself. Even with unfamiliar material, with a little work, the question can be answered. Now, what I want you to understand is that not everything that's given in the passage is important for us to know, right? So we as test takers have to only extract the most important information that we need, which will help us in answering the questions. If you're talking about a passage which has 5 long paragraphs, that doesn't necessarily mean that all the paragraphs contain all the major important points. So our focus will be on the fact that we have to carry out the major points made in the passage. If it's a short passage, then maybe I have to look for that one key sentence which talks about the whole gist of the passage. If I'm talking about a passage which contains 4 or 5 paragraphs, then I'm going to break down the passage by paragraphs, wherein while I'm reading the first paragraph, I'm taking out the key sentence from there. When I'm going to the second paragraph, I'm taking out what's the most important line there. When I'm doing the third paragraph, I'm approaching the third paragraph with the same method, wherein I'm trying to look for that key sentence. So try to always look for the big claim made in the passage, or that one big thing that the whole passage revolves around. So when practicing to take the test taker should try to determine which method is best for them, whether to read the passage thoroughly first, or to skim the passage first, or to look for each question before reading the passage. Now, there's no one way of doing questions based on reading comprehension passages. If you ask me, I would suggest you to definitely analyze the passage first and then go to the questions. That way you will save a lot of time. See, what happens when we look at the question and then come to the passages, we get confused. All the options feel like they could be the correct options. But when we have analyzed the passage in the first place, when we know exactly what's happening in the passage, that will give me a lot of clarity as to what are the answer choices that are definitely not going to be the answer choice. We will do that when we will see how that happens when we do a passage in some time. So while answering reading comprehension questions, test takers should make sure to understand what the question is asking. Understanding the question task is always very, very important. Answer strictly on the basis of what the passage says, and they should not rely on any outside knowledge. They should not select an answer choice simply because it is a true statement. So what it is a true statement? It might be coming from the wrong part of the passage. For example, there are going to be 2 types of questions in reading comprehension passages. One is going to be a main idea question, which is a general question. The next type of questions are going to be specific purpose questions. So when I am going to be looking for an answer for a main idea question, I should look at an answer which is holistic, which addresses to the passage as a whole. Any answers that talks about something specifically, or any answer choice that is too specific and only mention something that has been mentioned in the second paragraph or in the third paragraph cannot be my answer for the main idea question, because even though that proof is there in the passage, but it's not really answering my question, right? So please don't select too specific answers for main idea questions. However, if you are trying to answer a specific purpose question, you will know exactly what the window is, where the question is coming from. For example, if I'm asked something in the question which you remember reading in the second paragraph, that means to answer that question, you don't need to go through the whole paragraph again. Just go to the second paragraph and try to focus on the second paragraph itself and try to read between the lines, and you will be able to come up with an answer which is going to be accurate. Okay, so don't select any answer choice that is only partially correct. It has to be holistic and it should answer the task of your question. So when answering main idea questions, test taker should make sure that the selected answer picks the main idea rather than a subsidiary one, just what I spoke about. Don't look for an answer choice which is too specific. When identifying what the passage says explicitly, test taker should be able to pick out specific portions of the passage that make the relevant statement. When identifying what the passage says implicitly, test taker should not be limited by what is stated explicitly. They should not substitute their own ideas or interpretations. They should only stick to what the author is committed to. So finding out the author's tone is also very, very important in the passage. So when you categorize the sentences, if it's a short paragraph, when you categorize the sentences into functions like where the author has made the claim, and then once there is a claim made, of course, what you can expect next? You can expect evidences next, right? Any answer choice or any sentences that make use of contradictory transition, that's when you get to know that the author is objecting to something. So that might be an objection, right? And remember that all the reading comprehension passages start with a background information. Now, what is this background information? It might not be the major detail in the passage, but this background information is something by reading which the test taker will get an idea about what to expect later in the passage. So understand that finding out that major claim in the passage is very, very important. And there are going to be certain sentences which are going to be very challenging and bold. And by reading those, you will automatically get to know that this is where the author is making a claim, and that particular claim or that particular sentence itself will be proof for your answer for a main idea question. So I understand that many test takers, get like boggled when they see some tough language or some unfamiliar words or difficult words in the passage. But understand that not each and every word in the passage is supposed to be, understood by us. We cannot. But ask yourself, do I understand the passage as a whole? If yes, then half the battle is won there, right? So you don't need to freak out when you come across words that you have absolutely no idea of. Ask yourself, can I get the gist of the first paragraph? And can I understand what the first paragraph itself is focusing on? If you do, then your job is done. You don't need to, think about unnecessary details. However, for vocab and context questions, you can, sort of come up with a word on your own, which will help you to match up with the options, and then it'll help you find your own correct answer choice. So the questions test your ability to understand the overall idea, themes, opinions, tone, and structure of the passage. And then they test your ability to understand the purpose of specific words, which are nothing but vocab and context words. They test your ability to make broad inferences based on overall ideas, themes, opinions, tones, and structural elements in the passage. Make narrow inferences based on specific details in the passage. I want you to tell me what the meaning of the word inference is before we move ahead. What is inference? Conclusion, okay. Okay, I'm going to put out a simple statement in front of you, and you're going to tell me what can you infer from that statement, okay? So if I say that your teacher has, come to the classroom with wet hair, okay, what can you infer out of that given context? That it's raining, okay. But do we know for sure that it's raining? Isn't that an assumption? Okay, Girish is shower. Okay, we don't know that, Deepesh. We don't know that. See, why I'm giving you this, it might not be a great example, but my purpose of giving you this example is inference is, of course, a conclusion, but that conclusion needs to have proof in the passage. Now here, when we look at the teacher's hair is dry, we are not sure whether it is actually raining or whether she took a shower or whether somebody poured a bucket of water on her. All what we can know, all we can understand by just looking at her is her hair is not dry, right? That is inference. And when you're doing inference questions, please make sure to not rely on your assumptions, and make sure to go to the passage, read the passage again and again, your particular window, and then try to match it up with the answer choice. That way you will not come up with a wrong answer. Okay, so for a clear overview of the passage, you must pay attention to the what, the how, and the why. So what asks for what the topic is all about. What specifically about the topic does the author narrow down to? That means what is the major claim made in the passage? Then how is the passage structured? What is the tone of the author? Whether the author is agreeing to the claim, or whether the author disagrees to the claim, or the author is somewhere in the middle. So sometimes just knowing the author's tone is going to help you to a great extreme to, for some questions, to come up with the answer choices. And we'll see that in a while. This and the why belongs to why has the author written the passage in the first place. So when you get a primary purpose question, just try to always paraphrase this to a why question. What is the primary purpose of the passage? That means why the author has written the passage in the first place. What is that one big thing that the author wants you to believe in? That's important to find out. And to support that claim, what are the details? What are the supporting details provided in the same passage? So as long as you are great with your note-taking skills as to what the major point is and what are the supporting details that follow the major point, you will be able to answer each and every question that comes in the reading comprehension passage based on any particular passage, right? So first, let's, talk about the steps to how to approach reading comprehension questions. And then we are going to follow the same approach. We are going to apply the same approach when I show you a passage next. And we are going to do a passage together, and we'll see whether we are able to come up with the correct answers or not. So step one is to always find out the main idea of the passage. Always find out the central theme of the passage. And how are you going to do that? Always try to look for bold and challenging statements. And whenever you see supporting details, look either, before that or after all the supporting details. So there are two major structures that passages follow. Either the author would have made the claim in the beginning of the passage, and that claim would, progress towards relatively smaller details. Or the passage might start with some less important information with a lot of evidences, which may lead to the claim towards the end in the passage. So not all the structures, not all the passages follow the same structure. Use your logic as well. When you're reading the passage, read it in a way where you're trying to grasp the information and not just reading for the sake of it. The structure. Understand how the information is organized in the passage, such as the order of events or the development of ideas. Just what I spoke about. Always try to focus on the major point and the examples given or the supporting details given. And of course, last but not the least, the author's tone. Determine the author's perspective or stance on the topic, whether the author agrees or disagrees, or the author is somewhere in the middle, right? The second step is always will be to identify what the question is asking. Always try to understand the task of the question. If it's a main idea question, then you know that the subject is going to be your passage, the whole passage. If it's a specific purpose question, then you will have a specific window that you need to go to find proof. So when you understand the question, your approach will also be different with respect to different question types. Step 3, never forget that the passage is your only proof. Whatever answer choice you get confused with, go to the passage and see whether that answer choice is having any proof in the passage or not. If it does, depending on what the question is asking, it can either be a wrong or a right answer, and that you will know once you practice a lot of passages. The fourth step is the most important steps. I'm going to talk about some important tools that you can use to eliminate answer choices, so that even when you are under time crunch, even when you know that you haven't really comprehended the passage well, you still might be able to come up with the correct answer. Because one thing we have to make sure is we are not going to leave any question unanswered. So let's first try to understand the first tool that we are going to use to eliminate answer choices. Exercise caution when choosing answers that simply restate information from the passage without contributing additional insights. Exercise caution. What does that mean? What does that phrase restate information means? Paraphrased answers. What do you mean by the word paraphrase? Rephrasing. Okay, very good. Use other words to express the same meaning, correct? And sometimes you will see that most of the answer choices are using exact same words from the passage, by looking at which the test taker gets to understand that, okay, I have read this somewhere in the passage and this might be my answer. What we don't understand is that there's a lot of pressure, and in that pressure we tend to fall for these answer choices. But what we don't understand is that these are trap answers, these are distractors. Because they use the same exact words from the passage doesn't necessarily make them the correct answer choice. They're there to distract you, so never fall for those. What's wrong with them is they may be coming from the wrong part of the passage. Okay, so do not take any answer choice to be your correct answer which use the same words from the passage and restate the same information in other words. The next answer choice that's going to be eliminated with the help of this tool is called extreme language. Eliminate choices with overly strong or absolute language unless the passage supports such assertions. Okay. Exclude options containing excessively forceful or absolute terms unless the so what do you mean when I say absolute language? Do you understand the meaning of the term absolute language? Absolute words. What are absolute words? Rigid words. Very good. Anything that makes the claim even stronger than it already was in the passage. Let's suppose that the passage is talking about ideas or ways to cater to increasing housing in the city, and the answer choice talks about it is the only way that the so and so is done. So only here will be considered an extreme language, and this is the answer choice that you are definitely going to eliminate, because the passage has no proof of it. The passage just talks about many ways. The passage never said it is the only way. So just be aware of some answer choices which uses extreme words. And these extreme words make the conclusion even stronger than it already was in the passage. Then disregard answer choices that create an inappropriate or unsupported comparison. Okay. Now, these answer choices are very funny in the sense that the passage would have merely mentioned two terms or two phrases. Okay. But when you look at the answer choice, these answer choices will be comparing those two terms or those two phrases by using comparison language, such as, lesser, greater, more beautiful, less beautiful, something like that. When you do see answer choices using comparison language, eliminate them. 9 out of 10 times these answer choices are going to be wrong. The author would not have necessarily mentioned those two things in the passage to compare. There is a possibility that those things might be far off from each other. But when you look at the answer choice, these will be compared in a way which the passage will have no proof of. So try to avoid such answer choices. Next, try to eliminate anything that is the opposite of what you are trying to look for. So always, have a prediction before you go to the answer choice. So that way you come up with the most accurate one and there is no confusion. So when any answer choice, mentions the reversal of what you're trying to look for, obviously we are going to eliminate that. Be wary of choices that play on emotions but lack factual support from the passage. By reading some answer choices, you could feel like this could be the answer, but then ask yourself, do I have the proof for it in the passage? If no, then that I cannot take it to be the correct answer just because I think it could be the correct answer. And anything that makes use of outside information, new information, which the passage has no relevance to, those answer choices are absolutely out of scope, eliminate them. Now, what we are going to do is we are going to do a passage. I'm going to give you 3 minutes to go through the passage. Think about all the functions that we have talked about in the class. And when I ask you the main idea or which sentence is going to be the main idea or the major claim by the author, you should be able to put it in the chat box. And when I take you to the answer choices, try to eliminate answer choices based on the tools that we just discussed. So here you go with the passage. Take a good 3 minutes, go through the entire passage and try to rephrase or try to tell me in the chat box, what do you think? Which sentence do you think will make up for the main idea? Okay, I think I have a response. Okay. Okay, I hope all of you are done reading the passage. I just want to break down the passage a little bit for you so that you understand how do we pre-think and how do we use our logic to come up with, predictions. So if you can see, the first sentence says Tocqueville apparently was wrong. Okay, now from here we cannot derive any information unless we read the next one or two sentences. Jacksonian America was not fluid, egalitarian society where individual wealth and poverty were ephemeral conditions. At least so argues E. Pessin in his iconoclastic study of the very rich in the United States between 1825 and 1850. That means E. Pessin here challenges Tocqueville's view, right? That Tocqueville apparently was wrong. And the last sentence says that E. Pessin, in his iconoclastic study of the very rich in the United States between 1825 to 1850, has been discussed. So that means the next part of the passage may talk about his study on Jacksonian America. That is how you think, right? So in summary, the passage challenges the traditional view of Jacksonian America, presenting Pessin's argument that the society was not as fluid and egalitarian as was commonly believed. I want you to put it in the chat box as to what the word egalitarian means. This is just a test from a trainer to students. Vocab and context question. What does egalitarian mean? Equal rights, equality. Very good. That all people should deserve equal rights. Very good. So if you have read the second part of the passage, you would have understood that the tone of the author changes towards the end of the sentence, where it says that although these observations are true, Pessin overestimates their importance by concluding from them that the undoubted progress towards inequality in the late 18th century continued in the Jacksonian period, and the United States was a class-ridden plutocratic society even before industrialization. That means, according to the author, even though the observations are true, but the conclusion that Pessin has derived are all wrong, okay, or maybe incorrect. That is the prediction we have before we go to the question. I'll show you the question. Try to take a minute, eliminate answer choices, and then come up with the correct answer. Just put in the chat box as to what you think could be the correct answer for this question. Pessin's study has overtuned the previously established view of the social and economic structure. Okay, isn't this praising Pessin? That's not what we agree with, right? The last sentence doesn't really say that. It's too extreme to be the correct answer choice. I think I've got most of the answer choices as E, which is the answer. Both A and C are openly praising Pessin, which doesn't fit with the final sentences that made it clear that our author was not on board with Pessin's conclusion. Okay, if you look at option B, what does it say? Tocqueville's analysis of the United States in the Jacksonian era remains the definitive account of this period. What do you think this answer choice looks like, and why should we eliminate this? Isn't this the opposite of what was mentioned in the passage? Very good. Definitive account. So never fall for words like this. C says peasant study is valuable primarily because it shows the continuity of the social system in the United States throughout the 19th century. What kind of an answer choice is this? Again, showing that peasant study is valuable, putting peasant in a positive picture. Is that what the last sentence talks about? No. So that means it cannot also be our correct answer. Option D says the social patterns and political power of the extremely wealthy in the United States between 1825 and 1850 are well documented. Is this the full picture? They are well documented, but then is this the full picture? It's not, right? It doesn't specifically touch upon the whole passage, correct? Yes. Now that leaves us with option E, which says peasant challenges a view of the social and economic systems in the United States from 1825 to 1850, but he draws conclusions that are incorrect. This completely matches with the last sentence of the passage, and this is what is going to be our answer for a main idea question. Now let's go to the next question based on the same passage. Now remember that the question says, according to the passage, peasant indicates that all of the following were true of the very wealthy in the United States between 1825 and 1850, except. So when you get an except question, understand that 4 of the answer choices are going to be supported by what's given in the passage. That means 4 answer choices will have proof in the passage and 1 answer choice will not have any proof. And that's the answer choice that you're going to take as your correct one. Please go through the question and tell me what you think. Please tell me as to why you are eliminating the options that you are eliminating as well, based on the tools that we have discussed in the class before some time. If you need me to go to the passage, please let me know. I'll go to the passage so that you can take reference properly. Yes, I'll do that, Karan. Can I go to the question now? Yes, okay. All right. So the first option says they formed a distinct upper class, which is mentioned in the passage. The top 1% wealth was not ephemeral. That means it was short-lived and hence they were distinct, right? Option B says many of them were able to increase their holdings. Again, it is also paraphrased from the passage as well. Option C says some of them worked as professionals or in business. This is also mentioned in the passage. In a sentence where it says, though active in commerce or the professionals, most of this, right? Option D says, most of them accumulated their own fortunes. Okay, we have no clue of this from the passage. Pessin states that the fortunes were mostly accumulated and hereditary and not earned by them, right? So this is something that we have to hold as of now. And option E says many of them retained their wealth in spite of financial upheavals, which is also mentioned in the passage. So option D is something which the passage doesn't have any proof of, and that's why we are going to take it as the correct answer. All right, I think we can take some questions if you have any with respect to the session today, and I can answer to your questions properly.
So Rutu Parna, just wanted to check, like we are done with the presentation and now we are open to the Q&A part. Am I right?
Correct. Yeah.
Great, great. So I would like to give you a couple of minutes rest because you have been helping students for a long time. So
Yeah.
till
I'll
the
just sit some-
time, great, great. So till the time students start posting their questions, I would quickly like to run through a little bit about Galvanize here, where I would
Sure.
like to quickly tell them and help them understand how Galvanize can help them. So I would also urge students to start posting their questions in the chat box so that just a couple of minutes from my end, and then we can open the forum for Q&A. So as all of you know that we have been helping students for the test preparations part and admission counseling part. Some of the perks and advantages that we would like to share here is number one, a personalized study plan that students will be giving for their test preparations, wherein we would be guiding them based on their strength and weakness. And not only that, there would be an unlimited Ask an Expert facility wherein we would like to guide students with respect to their content related doubts, which is again unlimited. So you kind of have a great exposure to get all your doubts cleared. And also, you will have a lot of practice questions. With that, you will also have full length practice tests, like a mock test for your test preparations for the language proficiency and GRE out there. And one most important aspect that I would like to highlight here of being with Galvanize is you'll have the updated test pattern at most affordable rate and by expert guidance out there. And quickly run through as to the process that we follow for students when they come to admission counseling, wherein we help them understand their profile, post which we help them with university shortlistings, which they can have a great discussion with the counselors out there and save a lot of money and time, energy out here. And then followed by a documentation process wherein we help them with the SOP, LOR, visa guidance, financing, and many more such activities out there. And in case you would like to get in touch with us and know more how Galvanize can help you, or you would like to take your first step, you're confused, you need counseling, anything out there, you would like to speak to an expert, this is something that we have for you, wherein I will share the link in the chat box. This is basically a profile evaluation, being a part of the course, wherein we help understand the student's profile and guide them what are the steps that they can take up, and if there are any shortcomings, we help them overcome that with expert guidance out there. So don't miss out this opportunity. Fill in the form, speak to experts, understand what are the next steps that you can take, and march towards your dream destination exam out there. So I believe now we are open to the Q&A session, and Rituparna, if you'd like to take up some questions, please go ahead.
Sure. So, what would be the approximate number and breakup for the RC related questions from the total 27 verbal questions? So, well, you can expect a 50% of RC questions in every section. I mean, in both the sections. Half will come from RC and the other half will come from vocabulary. So, yeah. I think there's a question which Ramya, you can answer.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. Thank you so much, Maheen, for sharing here. And so the counselors get in touch once the session is over. So if you have filled in the form, I would request you to give us some time so that once the session is over, then we get in touch with you and we have a conversation with you. But still, in case you feel that no one has answered, please do fill in the form again so that we can give priority out there. Thank you so much.
Is
So
there
we
any?
have one question, Rutu Parna, where they're asking how to practice reading.
Just yeah, I'll just do that. How to practice reading. Okay. See, what I can suggest is I know that not a lot of people are fond of reading, and what I usually suggest is just start reading something that you think you will like. Okay, that's first. And you when you do read, try to analyze, try to extract information from that reading passage. It can be any reading passage, doesn't have to be the GRE passage. That's how you develop or build up your reading skills. Once you do get comfortable with reading, very easy level passages, then you can move on to actual GRE reading comprehension passages, and you can try to break down the passage. Focus on breaking down always, rather than going from the question to the reading comprehension passage. Always try to break down the passage first, try to understand the claim, try to jot down what are the supporting details or evidences that are there in the passage for the claim, where the author has agreed, where the author is objecting to something. And when you understand all of this, you will get a comprehensive understanding of how passages are structured and how to do them. Like I told you, not all passages follow the same structure. So the approach to, do each and every passage will also be different, right? So sometimes we need to use our logic as well. Sometimes pre-thinking also helps us a lot. So I would suggest do that. Try to, you know, start with something that you really like reading, and when you get comfortable with that, then you can go to passages which are a little bit more critical. Sure, my pleasure, Karan. I'll just put up a feedback form here. I would request each and every one of you to just fill in the feedback, so that when we have a session next, we will understand and cater to your requirements accordingly.
So we have last couple of minutes with us. So you have any questions? I would request students to post the questions out here.
I think there is a question that I just read now. Ma'am, out of 12 questions, how many questions we should answer correctly in order to move to the harder level? Almost all of them, of course. If not, then all the hard level questions. Now, your the next question might pop up in your head as to how do I know which one is a hard question? How do I know which one is an easy question? You will know that when you practice a lot of questions. You will definitely, when we see 2 plus 2 is what, and when we see a sum which has pointers and everything like that, obviously we will attempt the 2 plus 2 question first, right? Because that's easy for us. So the idea is, if you get all the hard questions right, then there is a possibility, along with some medium and easy level questions as well, then there is a possibility that you might get the next section as a hard section. I think that's my answer to that. Yes, you will have a mixed bag of question in each section. That means questions will be easy. Questions will be coming from easy level, medium level, and hard level. But even though we know that all the questions contribute to 1 point or 1 mark, it's the level of difficulty of the questions that defines your score and defines what kind of section you're going to get as your second section, basically.
So I think a couple of them have missed the session and they would like to take a look at the session which is there. So for them, anyone who have missed the webinar that we had today, please check our YouTube channel because we have it on our YouTube as well. So you will have all the videos out there. So please do take some time. And once the session is over, it would be, you could sit at your home and, with these, you could take a look at the complete video that is there. And in case you missed it or you have any more questions, do mention in the form that we have shared so that we could get in touch with you personally and get all your doubts cleared. So again, last couple of minutes, students, I believe this session has been quite exciting and informative. And all thanks to ETS team and Rutu Parna for joining us. I'm sure, there's a last minute change that has happened. And we are sorry that, Mansoor sir could not join the session due to his health issues. But we have Rutu Parna, who's again an expert out there. Thank you so much for taking time and speaking to us. And also thank you to students for being a part of this amazing webinar that we had today. So yeah, over to you, Rutuparna. Would you like to say some last few words out there?
Well, it's been a very wonderful session for me as well. I hope it was for you, people as well. I know I had a lot of fun and teaching. I hope you understood some, parts of reading comprehensions. I hope we keep having these master classes so that we can discuss about different question types. And yeah, I'll wait. I'll be waiting to see all of you again soon.
So Rutuparna, there is one question. Would you like to answer that? The student says 6.5 in IELTS and 90 in TOEFL. What about here for qualifying the exam?
Okay, this is a GRE session. I think it's better if we can just stick to GRE questions.
Sure. So again, Maheen, we would like to get in touch with you and help you out there. So I hope you are filled in the form, and for sure we will get in touch with you. So thank you once again, everyone, for being with us. And by this, I believe we have come to the end of the session. And once again, thank you, Rutuparna, for joining us today.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone. Take care.